So this morning, as I said, I want to speak on kindness. The Dalai Lama, he famously said, "My religion is simple. My religion is kindness." And I think we could take all the dogma out of all religion and just call it kindness. You know, he also said, "Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible." I love that. And I love how Maya Angelou put it. She said, "Be a rainbow in someone else's cloud." Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I have a funny joke. You want to hear it? Well, I hope it's funny. Okay, so it's about the kindness of strangers. This elderly woman gets on a bus, and she's sitting pretty close to the bus driver. And at one point, she just reaches over and she hands the bus driver a handful of peanuts. And he thought, well, that's very sweet of her. And he wants to be polite, so he takes the peanuts and he munches on them. And then a little while later, she hands him another handful of peanuts. And so he munches on the peanuts, and one more handful of peanuts comes a little later, and he finally says, why don't you eat these? Why aren't you eating these? And she goes, "Oh, I don't have any teeth." See? And he goes, "Well, then why do you buy them?" And she goes, "Well, I just really love the chocolate around them." I know. I'm sorry. That's a really terrible visual. I know. And that is not what I mean by kindness. Oh, man. Amma speaks about kindness often, and she often says, "A kind word, a compassionate glance, a small favor, just a small favor. All these can bring light into the lives of ourselves and into the lives of others." You know, think about the moments of kindness that you may have experienced in this last week. You know, I love to think about that. Every night I think about what I'm grateful for, and I think about the moments of kindness. You know, or maybe, you know, somebody did a small favor for you, or they said a kind word to you. Or maybe you did that for someone else, and you offered a warm smile, you offered a kind word. Maybe just this morning, there was a lot of moments of kindness. There's a poem I love by Donna Ashworth, and it's beautiful, and it's called You. So I just invite you to take this in as kind of a self-loving kindness practice. Really, really let this poem in. If every person who liked you in your lifetime were to light up on a map, it would create the most glitteringly beautiful network you could imagine. Throw in the strangers you've been kind to, the people you've made laugh or inspired along the way, and that star-bright web of you would be an impressive sight to behold. You're so much more than you think you are. You've done so much more than you realize. You're trailing a bright pathway that you don't even know about. What a thing. What a thing indeed. I love that. We take that in. You're trailing a bright pathway you don't even know about. Every one of you. So there's a story that my favorite singer of all time, Bonnie Raitt, there's a story that she put into a song on her last album. I think it was 2022, and the song became one of my favorite songs. I'm going to learn it and sing it here soon because it's so powerful. But the song is entitled Just Like That, and that's the title cut of the album. I highly recommend the album. I wore it out, the CD. And she won a Grammy for this song. And it was so interesting. When I saw that she was included with Beyonce and Adele, and that she won, you know, I felt it was so well deserved, because this song is about healing. It's about kindness on such a deep level. It's about grace. And it's a true story. That's what's just so powerful. And she wrote the song about a news story that she read in the news about a woman who had lost her son when he was young. And she blamed herself. She felt that she wasn't there for him. And the way that Bonnie writes it in the first verse, she writes it in the song like this. She says, "And just like that, your life can change. If I hadn't looked away, my boy might still be with me now. He'd be 25 today. No knife can carve away the stain. No drink can drown regret. They say Jesus brings you peace and grace. Well, he ain't found me yet." So this woman, she lost her young son, and after he passed away, she had donated her organs. And then soon after that, she moved away from the town. She just had to get away from it all. And she just lived with an immensity of grief and guilt for years. And then one day, there was a knock at the door. And she opened it to see this young man, and he said he was looking for Olivia Zand. She was Olivia. But she said, "Why does he want to find her? Why do you want to find her?" And he said, "I have something I think she'd want to know. I have something I think she'd want to know." And so she normally would never let a stranger into her house, right? But there was something in his eyes, and there was something that touched her heart, and so she welcomed him in. They sat down. And he sat down and he shared with her that he was the recipient of her son's heart. And he invited her to listen to his heartbeat. And she did. She put her head on his chest and she listened to his heartbeat. And in this being with this incredibly kind young man who had her own son's heart, years of pain began to be released. Years of pain. And just like that, her life changed. Her life changed, and the grace of that meeting allowed her to finally begin to heal. And so the last verse in Bonnie's song describes this healing. She wrote, "And just like that, your life can change. Look what the angels send. I lay my head upon his chest and I was with my boy again. Well, I spent so long in darkness, I never thought the night would end. But somehow grace has found me, and I had to let him in." I got chills. It's just such an incredible story, an incredible song. There's just so much kindness in it, right? This young man was so full of gratitude that he had a chance to live his life. And, you know, he looked everywhere for Olivia Zand. He wanted to find her. And maybe, I was thinking maybe because, the son's heart wanted to find her, you know? It's like he felt that maybe love in his son's heart for this mother he hadn't met. So I was just thinking, what could be kinder than giving someone life? I mean, that is an incredible expression of kindness. And it allowed her to finally heal and begin her healing process. So I'll sing it. I'll sing it for you another Sunday. So kindness is a practice. It's really rooted in a commitment to compassion, a commitment to universal values. And, you know, it benefits both the giver and the receiver, right? Not just the receiver, but the giver. That prayer that I started the service with, I'd like to read it again because it's just such a prayer. This is going to be my prayer. I'm going to memorize this prayer. If there ever were a prayer to memorize. I love the prayer of St. Francis. That's kind of been my prayer that I've memorized and I always say. But I love this one. I'm going to memorize this one, and I'll get it in our chant books. But I just want you to contemplate and feel the prayer. This prayer is your own truest nature's prayer. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, and a healing medicine for all who are sick, For as long as earth and sky endure, may I assist until all living beings are awakened. Wow. That's the Bodhisattva prayer right there. And of course, our kindness doesn't have to be grand acts of saving the world. It's the small gestures, right? It can just be simple acts of goodness. This week I picked up a friend from the hospital who had a procedure, and he was really funny. He had, he came out of anesthesia and he was hilarious. And so we had some really good laughs. I helped him out of the hospital. I went and got him some really good food. I got him home. I got him in his bed. And it just made me feel so good, it just made me feel so good. And, I was reading about kindness. It actually activates your hormones. It's hormonal bliss to do acts of kindness. It activates serotonin and oxytocin and what's the other one? Oh, endorphins. What are they? Liz, you know those hormones. So the Bhagavad Gita, it says, that one I love, who is incapable of ill will, who is friendly and compassionate. I love that quote. And I was thinking this morning driving here that, we all have free will. And so I really wish with our free will that all of humanity would choose goodwill, That was sort of this original thought. I think it's original, that popped into my head. We all have free will. Let's choose goodwill with our free will, There's a Random Acts of Kindness website, and the Random Acts of Kindness Day is February 17th, but I think it should be every day. And they have some great ideas for random acts of kindness. One of them is smile at 5 strangers. I do this almost every day in the park. And it's so fulfilling. Pretty much everybody smiles back. On occasion, someone's looking down, and that's what they need to do, right? Another one is be friendly to a lonely neighbor, or call a friend who's going through something challenging. That's a simple thing. Another one, this one I like, have a judgment-free day, a day where when a judgment arises, see if you can replace it with a kinder thought. That's a good practice. I love that thought, the thought of that. Sign up to be an organ donor. That's a big gesture, right, as I shared earlier. A friend from years ago from Mount Shasta recently passed. Is Ariella here? Yeah, Catherine Prias. What is it? How do you say her last name? Proust. Catherine Proust passed away. And, I was just following. She used to come to my chanting and the Christmas caroling and, the things we did in Mount Shasta for 30 years, the musical programs. So she passed away last week, and she had arranged to be an organ donor. And I learned that she donated to 3 people and quite possibly saved 3 people's lives. What a thing. Wow. What an incredible act of kindness. Another aspect of practicing kindness is in offering it to ourselves, right? We can take 30 minutes and do something we love, right? Or longer. The Buddha, he has wise teachings on how we become a good friend to ourselves, to others, and to ourselves. But I love this. I've read this scripture many times. Buddha wrote, you can search throughout the entire universe for someone who's more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself. And that person is not to be found anywhere. You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserves your love and affection. Yeah. So I had some moments of worry. I was really relating to what you shared earlier, Kathy Mary. I had some moments of worry this Friday when my brother called, and actually he texted first. There was a text, and it was from a number I've never seen, and it was telling me my phone has been hacked, my computer's been hacked, and I had to get a new phone, and this is my new phone number. And I wasn't sure it was really him, so I wasn't sure if I should text back or call back, right? So I researched really quickly and found out, okay, you can't really get hacked by just calling somebody. So I called him, and I was so glad it was him, but I was just really sad that he was distraught. You know, we're like twins, my brother and I, and just feeling his level of anxiety and distress, it just made me so sad. And you know, he did what he could. He got hacked on Facebook, and so he called this number, said they were Windows support, right? And they sounded and seemed very legitimate, but they weren't. It was a scam. And before he gave much information at all, he realized it and he hung up. But you know, it just saddens me to see people I love hurt, but it saddens me also that people waste this precious human life doing this sort of thing. This human life is so precious. It's such a gift. And so for people to spend their time doing things that cause suffering, it just breaks my heart, you know. So we hold space for that, you know. With my brother, though, I just shared a lot of love, and I'm going to go see him this week, my time off, next weekend, actually. And, you know, I just sent him text saying, do something sweet for yourself and, you know, make a nice meal, go for a soothing walk, and just remember you're loved and how much I love you. This world, this 3D realm, it has such beauty, but it also has a lot of unconsciousness outpicturing. And we have to find a way to take good care of ourselves and keep ourselves safe, but at the same time, not shut down our hearts. Isn't that the balance, you know? Isn't that the challenge? There's something the poet David White calls the fierce heat of living. The fierce heat of living. And you know, this is what it is to live in this world where we know love is the truth of who we are, but we interact with other people who maybe don't know love is the truth of who they are. They haven't found that yet. They haven't discovered that, right? So we have to make sure we fill our cup up with what nourishes our heart and our soul. We have to fortify our connection to the beloved, which we do, which we've been doing this morning so deeply, you know, going within that, what I call the vertical connection with the beloved, and then with the horizontal connection with the beloveds, you know, and really tap into those who love and care about us and let them remind us we're loved. That poem, that line from that David White, I want to read you the whole poem. Anna should read this, but she's got laryngitis, so I'm going to do my best. I was going to ask you to read this, and I went, oh, wait. Soon she'll be back reading poetry for us. But David White calls this self-portrait, and he's talking about living in a world that isn't always easy. It doesn't interest me if there is one God or many gods. I want to know if you belong or feel abandoned, if you know despair or can see it in others. I want to know if you are prepared to live in the world with its harsh need to change you, if you can look back with firm eyes, saying, this is where I stand. I want to know if you know how to melt into that fierce heat of living, falling toward the center of your longing. I want to know if you are willing to live day by day with the consequences of love and the bitter, unwanted passion of your sure defeat. I have heard in that fierce embrace, even the gods speak of God. Even the gods speak of God. I feel like he's describing how hard it can be to live in this world with a wide open heart, you know, and to have to meet the disappointments, right? To the bitter, unwanted passion of your sure defeat that we all have to face. The times when this world feels sharp-edged, right, and unkind. We all face that fierce heat of living, don't we, at times? And so we have the free will to decide if it makes us bitter or if we use it to grow, if we allow it to just take us deeper and deeper and deeper. And I witness in so many of you, that's what you do with it. I think Eckhart Tolle said, we get wise enough to finally use everything to evolve, right? It's an intentional choice. And it takes the time it takes to get there, right? When we're hurt, right? When we have to be sweet to ourselves when we're facing the little traumas we often face in daily life. I read the news and I feel a little trauma. It's a lot. So we are the bodhisattvas in training. And we have to have so much patience. I love that word forbearance. That's a word that Amma uses a lot. Forbearance, that's having a tremendous amount of patience and trust in love and trust in life, right? So when we feel the unkindness of the world touches us, we shift our focus. We take our focus off what's happening or what's happened, and we put our focus on self-healing and self-care and self-love. Yeah. I feel like a lot of my talks are like offering this toolbox of things that help us heal and help us, feel closer to the divine. And it's so important to take care of our emotional body. That's why I did that series, and to name what we're feeling and make our intention how we transform whatever we're feeling that's difficult. Anxiety into calm, anger into compassion for ourselves, shame into self-worth and self-love. So, we learn to set boundaries with what takes our energy and be kind to ourselves with small acts of self-care. Maybe we take ourselves out to our favorite meal. I like Thai pepper. We schedule a massage, right? We go to the park or the lake. We have lunch with a friend. We limit our consumption of news and social media if they cause stress. Please limit your consumption. I was reading how the golden rule might be important to turn around, especially if you're a person that goes about blessing people a lot in your life, to turn it around and say, do unto yourself as you would do unto others. Yeah, because sometimes we're the last ones that receive our love and care and blessing and goodness and grace, right? Be kind to you, just like the person you took home from the hospital, right? So there's a poem by the social justice activist L.R. Nost that goes, "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, but all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but intention. Intention. So go. Love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in the darkness for the light that is you." So my deepest prayer is that we all make kindness our religion. We all make kindness our religion, and we cultivate the qualities of a generous heart. And we just trust in love. We trust in love, and we keep opening and pruning away the negative conditioning, right? And we refuse to become bitter. We refuse, even when we witness unconsciousness in this world, right? And that we are kind to our own tender hearts, and that we grow strong in our awake awareness, right? And in our own strength, right? Amma, I'll close with Amma's words. They're so similar to that poem I just read, but she always says, don't worry about all the darkness in the world. Just light your one candle, and with courage and with bravery and with boldness, shine your light brightly. Do that. Thank you all. Namaste.